I'm ready to start, so take a seat. So thank you very much for making it here. For the next 20 minutes, you'll be hearing from me about a technical overview of first MPEG-5 LCEVC-Enhanced experimental broadcast channel during FIFA World Cup. I think I win the title for the prize for the longest title. But what I want to tell you in these 20 minutes is a bit of a story. What happened over the last good few months in Brazil. So, we all know something about Brazil. You know, it has beautiful beaches and it's a beautiful place to go. But Brazil is also a great place for innovation, right? They lead in certain fields in many areas. One is this, right? We all know they have a great football team. They won a lot of prizes, and they're recognized for it. One thing that I found out over the last few months is that they're not often recognized for their advances in digital terrestrial television. And actually, they're currently working on two new standards, right? They go by the name of TV 2.5 and TV 3.0, and I'll give you a little bit of the details. And these new standards kind of come from the realization. I asked ChatGPT for a little bit of fun to see if it kind of picked up on the rationale behind the standards that is actually you can find on the SBTVD forum website. And I think ChatGPT got it right? The digital terrestrial television is not one size fits all anymore. Right? You need to address, like the people that it addresses today, it needs that 100% coverage of the population, whether it's in rural areas or in cities. But it also needs to recognize that TV consumption is not the same for everyone anymore. Right? We know it over the top, but it's the same with OTA. So, you know, there is a new, more affluent, tech-savvy audience that craves better services, UHD services, better audio, and this is what the forum in Brazil set out to address. And this is the roadmap to address the evolution of digital terrestrial television in Brazil. So the current standard is TV 2.0. So if you go to Brazil, you tune into a channel, you will get a TV 2.0 signal. They standardized about 2 years ago a TV 2.5 specification, which aims at building on top of TV 2.0, so offering a retrocompatible signal, but adding features like HDR, better audio, and a better kind of interactive interface. They keep on adding to the standards, and I'll come to that in a second. And they are currently ratifying TV 3.0. So last year they ratified and they standardized the technologies used in audio and video, and they're currently going through tests for the physical layer. Okay, all this information, I put a link there you can find on the SBTVD forum website. So there is a technology that is common to TV 2.5 and TV 3.0 that enables people like the SBTVD forum and Brazil in general to evolve digital terrestrial television with the features that they want, i.e. maintaining retrocompatibility for TV 2.0 and adding a whole new range of features for TV 3.0. And that is MPEG-5 LCEVC. So MPEG-5 LCEVC, for those of you who don't know it, is an MPEG standard. It's one of the latest MPEG standards, got standardized about a year and a half ago. It's an enhancement, and here's a keyword that we will see in in how it applies to digital terrestrial television and the TV 3.0 and 2.5 standards. So it applies to any codec existing, AVC, HEVC, VVC, and just adds extra capabilities that we will illustrate. On top of that is low complexity. So it's a reduced set of low complexity tools that enables to add these kind of computational compression enhancement, but at low cost, right? Meaning makes it easier to deploy on existing infrastructure. I briefly kind of get this concept across because you will see what it means in the deployment of the standards in Brazil. This is how it works, right? You take a base, what we call a base picture, right? It could be your current AVC, your current HEVC, or your future VVC channel, and you add this enhancement. You add data. This data could be carrying a higher resolution, but could be carrying higher details, could be carrying different color space. Okay? And it does that by building a layer on top of an existing or future channel. How is this used in TV 3.0 and TV 2.5? So this is a picture again from the SBTVD forum website. If you go and look for TV 3.0, you will see that the LCEVC technology is used alongside VVC. So new, best-in-class compression standard for what we call the base. So new channels, new receivers, and the enhancement delivering a scalable higher resolution. So the idea here is very much in Brazil that we use the best in breed to deliver kind of hybrid broadcast broadband, hybrid broadcast UHD and HD signals without simulcasting, for example. Okay, by using the best compression standard for the base and the best scalable approach for the higher resolution. Completely different requirement for TV 2.0. Remember that we said we wanted a retrocompatible signal for the TV 2.0 receivers of today. So anybody in Brazil receiving a signal today doesn't have to switch off their set-top boxes or their TV. But the enhancement here is used in a completely different way. So it's not carrying a higher resolution, but it's carrying different color information, different bit depth, and actually carrying an interlaced to progressive transformation in the decoder. That means that if I have an existing tuner, I still see my TV 2.0 signal of today. If I have an LCEVC TV 2.5 enabled tuner, I will see a still 1080, progressive signals in HDR 10-bit. Okay? Very different use cases. So, very different use cases. You still need to support on devices, right? On the encoding side, on the decoding side. How do you go about building that support? And here enters, I took this slide from one meeting we had back in the day, enters Project Copa do Mundo. So the guys at Globo and TVD came up with the idea of putting together a range of different companies that were willing to spend the development time necessary to prove that the ecosystem for these two technologies could be built and could be built in time for the World Cup. And this was the time scale, right? I won't go through all of the details, but since inception, let's say in May, to the World Cup starting in December, so it's 7 months, including holidays, summer, etc., in which we had to go out there, select encoder vendors, decoder vendors, integrate the technology, integrate the audio technology, verify interoperability, and deploy it in an environment where it could run for a whole month, right, for all of the matches of the World Cup live. Okay? This is what we achieved. So a little bit of technical details to stay true to the name of my presentation. But basically, this is the workflow of TV 2.5. The signal in from Qatar at the time is an HDR10 signal, actually coming as P50, was transformed in a 1080p 5994 signal, still in HDR, going through a pre-processing stage from Interdigital using SLHDR1 to build the metadata that was then carried in the enhancement layer. The plugin by Vinova was added to a main concept live encoder and was performing the interlacing and deinterlacing necessary to differentiate basically the enhancement layer from the base, as well as the different the transformation of the bit depth. This signal was carried in a standard MPEG-2 transport stream, put on air on an ISDBT channel that Globo had available, broadcasted across Brazil, and picked up by the receivers. The receivers that were not TV2.5 enabled, so any standard receiver in the country that was picking up that channel was still seeing the TV2.0 playback, so 1080i, SDR, BT709 with AAC audio. The receivers that were equipped with the new drivers, fundamentally, were able to decode the LCEVC enhancement layer and therefore display a progressive HDR 10-bit signal with MPEG-H surround sound audio. TV 3.0, similar workflow, but completely different use of the technology. So in this case, the LCEVC SDK from Vinovo was integrated into a live ATEM Titan encoder. It was taking the full UHD signals as P40, as P5994. It was encoding the enhancement layer at the higher resolution, so carrying the 4K signal, while the base stream were using VVC to encode the 1080p 60 signal. The output was carried as an MPEG- stream over an IP network and decoded by an enabled development board by MediaTek that was launched at IBC with VVC support and was running the LCEVC enhancement layer in software at the driver level. This, actually, to add to the level of technicality of my explanation, is the diagram that Globo put together. So they had actually a whole setup for the month with a matrix of equipment, taking the signal from the Qatar and preparing it for the various workflows. The first is the TV2.5, so I have the whole equipment, modulators, receivers on this side, sound bars, 4K TVs. Similar for the 3.0 workflow, which was using, as I said, the ATEM encoder and the MediaTek 4K televisions, and a theater where the 4K signal was put on a huge screen with a surround sound bar that was filled by Globo employees during the Brazilian matches. All of this was successful. So we actually did manage to broadcast and display in the showcase that was set up at Globo every match of the World Cup for the duration of a month with live equipment, with a signal on air, with decoder on chipsets that are on the market today, all, I would like to say, in a project that lasted less than about 6 months from start to finish. So we're all proud of this. We're all very excited of what we achieved. It wouldn't have been possible, obviously, with the collaboration between different companies. It was not just Vinovo with the technology, it was not just the 10 with the encoder or the chipset vendors like Amlogic and MediaTek. It was literally every company sticking to a tight deadline to deliver something that was quite incredible, but also show that ecosystem can be built and can be built fairly quickly with the right technologies and the right attitude. Can you see this here at the show? We have a couple of demos actually at the LCEVC showcase where you see some of the products that are coming up to market supporting the technology. W3074 and W3075, which is somewhere in that direction before you hit the exit. And with that, thank you very much.